We keep talking about Tyree. We keep talking about the fact that this is a case where he's been in prison. But let's talk about the case. Let's give the details here. So, back in the late '90s, I believe '97, right? Mm-hmm. That's when the alleged crime occurred. So can we just, and I don't care who takes this one, but can we just get into how old Tyree was, what happened, and just the background of the case?
You can go ahead, Dave. No, seriously, you've been involved in this with Tyree for a very long time.
October
1997.
October of 1997. I was trying to remember the date because I've really delved into the details, but there's so many documents in a case like this, it's hard to keep track sometimes. But October of 1997, there was a corner store in Tyree's neighborhood. John, they called him Mr. John Kang, as Tyree will explain, was sort of, to him, a bit of a hero in the neighborhood. He was the storekeeper. And as Tyree sort of has explained it to me, in a culture at that time where most people would only employ people of, their kind, Koreans who ran Korean shops were only employing Korean neighbors, and African Americans were only employing African Americans. He would give jobs to whomever. He was a real neighborhood hero. Tyree would tell me that he looked up to him. His mother was, huge. His mother's passed away since then, but ultimately, this corner store robbery occurs in October of 1997, and Tyree got caught up in a group of individuals that eventually would become in the crosshairs for this investigation. He was Mr. John was shot. It was basically supposed to be a stick up for money. Obviously, it went sideways, and he was shot and he was murdered. And Tyree got caught up in that. I think, as he would describe, sort of naively felt very early on for a while, well, there's no way that I'm not going to go to prison for this because I had nothing to do with this. Right. So he figured at that time it would all work out. He was 19 years old. He was a minor, which will become an important fact in the story. So, and there were other people, obviously, allegedly there. Who was the other guy convicted with him? Raheem Shackelford.
Raheem Shackelford.
Yeah. And he was 17 at the time.
Yeah, I should correct that. Right, Tyree wasn't a minor.
No.
He was just shy of being minor, or just past being minor. I should correct that. So, but Raheem Shackelford was, and that is ultimately what would enable, when the Pennsylvania Supreme Court overturned life without parole for juveniles, it enabled a resentencing opportunity for those who were. You could speak to this.
Yeah, please. Yes.
That's a big area, right? Because contextually, look, in the eyes of the law, once you're 18, you're an adult, even though we know differently, right? From the brain science that's just never made it into the courtroom, right? However, everyone had redress in this situation.
They had what?
Meaning they've been able. Thank you for saying that, right? I'm talking like a lawyer.
I'm not the legal guy.
No, I'm talking like a lawyer. Meaning you get a shot at reviewing your case because the Pennsylvania Supreme Court said, okay, for juveniles, if you had done something heinous and you were convicted of it, we're going to give you an opportunity to be resentenced because you're a juvenile at the time you did it, even though we're talking about a year's different in age, right? So Tyree, if he was 18 and Raheem is 17, Raheem gets relief through the resentencing of juveniles because you can't keep a juvenile in jail for life, but Tyree doesn't. Raheem actually is involved in this and has admitted guilt. He's out because of a, opportunity through the law. Tyree has no real opportunities through the law after so long.
And Raheem's been out for a while now, right?
Yeah, I'd say since 2018.
Okay, so he gets through this redress opportunity, he gets out. Tyree wasn't a minor, so he can't get out. He's stuck in there.
With very little remedies.
Other than the very litigious appeal process, which none of us who aren't lawyers understand. So.
Well, let's put it in context.
Yeah,
so
please.
after 26 years, you don't really have any appeal issues other than what's called newly discovered evidence, right? And newly
How do they determine that?
Yeah, that's very tricky. That means information that came to you that you didn't know about at the time of your trial, that if you knew about would bear upon your innocence. Now, how do you really look at what would bear upon someone's innocence? Well, if a witness says, you know what, I lied. That wasn't true. That didn't happen. DNA evidence usually helps with that too, newly discovered evidence. Or some kind of like crazy, because back then videos weren't really prevalent and we didn't have a lot of the technology, but some kind of witness that says, hey, I've been in hiding for 20 years and I actually know who did it, but I was afraid to say so before. And so no one ever had my name. So it's like these really like aha moments that now after 26 years, a person only has the ability to file an appeal against their lawyer 1 year after their sentence. So
An appeal against their lawyer.
yes. So hopefully we get into this. But
Please, yeah.
Tyree's lawyer at the time, who wasn't a public defender, but was a court-appointed lawyer, which is different.
Can you explain that difference?
Yes. A public defender works in an institution, the public defender office, and they are assigned to represent anyone who cannot afford a lawyer. If the public defender takes a co-defendant, they can't represent the other person charged with the crime because that could be a conflict in your defense theory. So private lawyers, it could be a private lawyer like Dave, they can have intellectual property, but these lawyers at least should be certified to do homicide cases. Sure. Private lawyers then say, hey, court, I will represent someone in a court-appointed capacity, and the court will then pay them to represent the co-defendant. So each person has their unique lawyer so they can put on the defenses that they need to.
Got it. Okay. So what was the name of his attorney again?
Daniel Green.
Daniel Green.
Who's no longer living.
Well, that's unfortunate. So either way, though, there's no appeal 1 year out, I think you said, on something
Daniel
like
Green,
that?
when I look at this, Daniel Green made a lot of mistakes.
Yes.
And really should have called certain witnesses or should have raised certain issues, but did not. Tyree could have complained about what Daniel Green did, but he would have only had 1 year after he was sentenced to do that.
Well, and there was a point, I think, early on when Tyree actually did ask the court. I think he and his father at the time were advocating for Tyree to get a new counsel, and the court refused at the time. There's a situation there I know that Tyree still talks about when he knew he wanted new counsel and he wasn't able to get it.
Are you saying still during the trial, not after the fact?
Not after the fact.
Thank you for watching the video, guys. Please hit that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.